In graduate school in about 1970, I saw a banner on the wall that said, "Learn how to meditate." And I found out that I could debug the software I was writing in my nuclear physics studies in a meditation state much more accurately and quicker than I could if I were actually looking at the printouts. The lines that had errors in them were red. The others were black. And that kind of crashed my reality. Up until that time, like most physicists, I believed that if you couldn't measure it, then it didn't exist. So I would do experiments in that I could have one of these effects and then change a variable and then do it again and then change that variable a little more and do it again. From consciousness, your intent can modify future probability, can modify what happens in the physical world, which means that consciousness is the fundamental thing and the physical world is a derivative of consciousness. So I knew that consciousness theory should also contain physics theory.
I finished my neurosurgical training at Duke in 1987, and then I started work at Harvard Medical School after doing a fellowship in cerebrovascular neurosurgery, all along thinking I understood something about brain, mind, and consciousness. But that, of course, was the tremendous gift of my near-death experience, is finding out that what I thought was a worldview that we just assumed to be true is actually false, that consciousness is primordial. All of this emergent reality basically emerges from consciousness. And it opens the door to a tremendous amount of understanding about consciousness and the mind and the power that human beings have over their unfolding reality.
If consciousness is fundamental, where does the physical world end and consciousness begin?
The physical world is a product of the consciousness world. One is within the other. It's not an either-or. It's all one thing.
It isn't as though there's a physical world and there's a mental world. There's only one world. It's all consciousness. It's not just localized in there, it's everywhere. And it's also not in space, and it's not in time. It's somehow before space and time. That's what we mean by fundamental. Consciousness is a kind of a substance, a proto-substance perhaps, which is usually in a primordial, refined state that doesn't even appear to be matter or energy yet. But from that can emerge what we start seeing as a physical world. Just like ice can take on different phases, maybe we're talking about something like consciousness, which has different phases. So if consciousness is a continuum, then some forms of consciousness can appear to be hard matter.
Physicists of the 20th century in 1920 and 1930 pondered this quite a lot and concluded that consciousness must be there, even there was no direct way of detecting it. We could only see its physical effects. Consciousness as a whole can be described by the quantum attribute. It's just that the quantum attribute does not follow Newton's laws. It's not physical. It's an entirely different part of the description of matter in the universe.
If the physical world exists within consciousness, how come we can see one and not the other?
We see physical reality, and we think that we are physical bodies walking around in this physical reality. What we are is consciousness. We are pieces of consciousness playing avatars in a virtual reality game called this physical world. So a consciousness comes here with no memory. So when it logs onto its avatar, that avatar is all it knows. So all of its experience is experience with that avatar, with that fetus, with that newborn. This is an apple, this is mama, you know, this is the door, this is my house. It just learns how to interpret the data. What's really happening is that the computer is sending this individuated unit of consciousness a data stream. That's how reality is created.
I do believe we live in a virtual game, but I don't necessarily believe that we live in a simulation.
Yes, I do.
No.
I don't know. I mean, I don't think simulation in the sense that
it's like one giant video game.
I don't necessarily believe we live in a computer that somebody else created.
I feel like if that was the case, then there would be like technological glitches in the sky.
When I think about simulations or the Matrix, I believe we do.
We probably thought up this whole construct before we came here and decided we're going to go in and we're going to play this game, and here are the rules, and we're going to go deep into it, and we're going to completely forget that we made this game.
I think we are the ones that are running the show.
I don't know who's running the show, but I can tell you at times I think it's a shit show. Complete shit show.
The waves that describe matter are basically spherical and surround the matter. But consciousness waves, which exist in the same quantum space, are now spiraling. Let's focus on the spin attribute because it is an attribute that is shared most intensely with the overall structuring of matter in the universe. My body has a whole lot of protons and electrons in it, and those produce a joint wave of great complexity that's describing my anatomy. Can you imagine that the description of spin in the universe starts with a global spin of the universe, which then restructures in more local spins, which have a memory of the initial global? We see all the galaxies rotating, and the stars in the galaxies are all rotating. The planets around the stars, like our Earth, is rotating once every 24 hours, and so on. Some of that rotation is a memory of the initial rotation. Therefore, the universe is imbued with this enormous description of rotation, from atomic matter scales to the global scales of galaxies and their clusterings and voids and the overall structuring of matter in our universe. Consciousness waves do share this attribute of spinning and rotating, and our minds can begin to interact with this.
If the universe is based on spin and consciousness waves and can connect two minds, how would we demonstrate that in real life?